Lord Eddard Stark stood alone in the Lord Commander's solar long before dawn, the faintest hush of ocean salt wafting through the open arrow slit. Shivering candles carved thin halos across the stone, their glow softened by the sea mist creeping up the bluffs beneath Aegon's high red walls. Ned kept the parchment flat beneath his left hand. Robert's last will, bearing the stag sigil wax that had already begun to crumble at the edges like old snow. He read the words again for the 100th time. Until my heir comes of age, I leave my kingdom in the capable hands of my Lord Eddard Stark, protector of the realm. Robert's broad strokes smelled still of wine and boar's blood and the wild laughter that used to echo down the vaulted passages of Summerhall. But everything smelled of blood now. Ned could taste it each time he breathed. Outside, the bells of Baelor's September tolled prime, the 6th hour of the day, and 6 quick iron strokes rolled down Visigna's hill like ripples across a frozen lake. The sound felt too thin, too wintry for King's Landing in high summer. Yet Ned welcomed the chill it laid against his ribs, for it reminded him of Winterfell's rising seps of steam and the sense of waking up to something honest. He drew in a breath, slow, even, measured like father's hunts on the King's Road. The carved shutters drummed once against the jamb. The air tasted of storm. Somewhere above, the rookeries rattled, restless with secrets, and feathers drifted like soot past the crenellations. King's Landing was afraid, though the city scarcely understood what ghost prowled her streets. Ned could feel it in the damp mortar, fear growing thick and fungal in every alleyway and market stall, in every whorehouse lantern, in every hush of barred door when gold cloaks marched past with torches guttering. Early, Ned reminded himself while untying the leather thong at his wrist. You must be early. You must be first. He had been first to rise each day since the letter from Stannis reached his hands. The letter Ser Roderick carried north. The letter that laid bare the twins of golden hair, the lineages marred by secrecy, the truth Robert had died for without even knowing it. He folded the parchment carefully, slid it into the inner breast pocket of his doublet, and fastened the stag clasp that held his black cloak in place. The silver pin bore a dire wolf as well, added hastily by Tomard to remind the court that winters do not bend. Ned tightened it until the iron pricked the pale skin near his collarbone and he felt a bead of warmth gather there. Evidence that his blood still flowed, that he was still alive despite the weight of the realm pressing upon his shoulders. A gentle rap, tap tap tap, sounded at the oaken door. Enter, Ned called, turning as the hinges sighed. Ser Barristan Selmy stepped inside, white cloak brushing the reed carpet like fresh snowfall. Even in the dim he shone, a shard of dawn steel. Lord Stark, he said, offering a bare nod. The same nod at dawn before every battle he had fought since the Trident. The Queen has summoned the council to the throne room at the hour of prime. Her Grace wishes the new protector to witness the coronation proclamation of Prince Joffrey. Ned met the old knight's eyes and saw the storm there too, gray, foaming, salted with exhaustion. I thank you, Ser Barristan. Are the other lords assembled? Lord Varys arrived at first light. Grand Maester Pycelle came shortly after with Ser Lancel at his shoulder, though the boy looks pale as parchment. Littlefinger, as ever, is present already. The old man's mouth tightened on the last name, a twitch of distaste. No sign of Lord Renly since last night's quarrel. I fear he has flown. Fled, Ned corrected inwardly. Renly Baratheon's chamber had been stripped almost bare, the footlockers gone, the golden stag chains vanished from the wardrobe, and with him the 100 swords of his rainbow guard. Then it falls to us, Ned said, steadying his voice as he stepped past Barristan into the outer passage. Sconces hissed in the damp, their flames long and slender. A pair of gold-cloaked Lannister guards stiffened as the two men passed. Ned felt their eyes crawl between his shoulder blades. He ignored them. The climb from the Tower of the Hand to Aegon's High Hill took them through galleries where sunlight lanced through windows of colored shards. Rubies and emeralds danced across the flagstones like shattered crowns. At each landing, Ned caught whispers curling behind heiresses, names darting, Stark, Queen Traitor Lioness. The fear had words now, though still too soft to stand tall in daylight. They emerged onto a windswept bridge connecting towers, the Dragon Gate yawning beneath, a gulf of blue-gray sky opening to the Blackwater Bay where gulls wheeled in disquiet. Down below, the city sounded muffled, like a marketplace heard underwater. Smith's hammers muted, hawkers' cries folded beneath a haze of dread. Ned's cloak flapped behind him, the dire wolf snarling against the gold of dawn. Barristan paused midway, fingers brushing the stone merlin. "Lord Stark," he began. Ned slowed. "Speak freely, sire. You have Robert's words and Robert's sigil. Yet Queen Cersei has the boy upon the throne and half the city watch besides." He tasted the air as though for rain. "I served another king who thought oaths and parchments alone could shield him. I would not see Robert's last friend perish for trusting in ink." Ned placed a hand upon the old knight's armored forearm. "I do not trust in ink, sire. I trust in honor, the honor of good men such as you. You swore to defend the realm. The realm bleeds when lies sit the throne." Selmy's frown deepened, but he inclined his head. "Then I shall stand beside you. May the gods grant we do not fail." Diamond suit, they descended into the serpentine corridors leading to the grand doors of the throne room. The gilded relief of 4 dragons cavorting among skulls arched overhead. Torches laid wavering shadows that made the beasts seem to writhe. Gold cloaks flanked the archway, their crimson sashes bright as raw meat. Ser Mandon Moore awaited them beyond, eyes pale as moonstones set in marble. "Lord Protector," Moore rasped, stepping aside with mechanical grace. "Her Grace the Queen bids you enter." The doors groaned as if they too were weary of blood. Inside, the throne room sprawled vast and echoing, its windows pregnant with a gray light still shy of sunrise. The Iron Throne itself squatted atop the raised dais like a black, waiting crow, jagged swords fused, edges catching cold glints. And upon that dark deity of steel sat Prince Joffrey Baratheon, legs dangling, golden curls lit to a halo, expression fixed in petulant marble. Cersei Lannister stood beside the dais, lioness in a gown of crimson velvet that bled into the floor. Her green eyes glimmered, cold as emeralds drowned in wine. Below her, a loose crescent of courtiers fanned out. Pycelle clutching chain links, Littlefinger with his mockingbird pin, Varys in voluminous lavender silk, Janos Slint in freshly burnished helm, and a dozen others Ned scarcely knew by name but recognized by their restless stench of ambition. The hush was palpable. Even the torches seemed to hesitate before crackling. Ned strode forward, Barristan half a pace behind. His boots struck the marble floor. Tap, tap, tap. An unhurried cadence that filled the hall like hammer beats forging something dangerous. Littlefinger's smile curved as though he tasted summer wine. Varys' hands fluttered within his sleeves like birds caught in netting. Pycelle coughed, a papery sound. Slint's gaze flicked toward the gold cloaks at attention along the walls, as though counting them. Ned halted at the foot of the dais. He felt the room tilt upon an invisible fulcrum. Everything and everyone balanced on this breath. He drew the parchment from his breast. "Your Grace," he said, voice carrying, even honed, "I bring the final words and lawful will of King Robert of House Baratheon, first of his name." He raised the parchment high, seal facing outward for all to witness. "By his own hand, the king named me protector of the realm until his rightful heir should come of age." Cersei's painted lips bent into a smile too slow, too languid. "We thank you, Lord Stark, for your unwavering loyalty." Her gaze slid over the parchment as if it were a debtor's notice. "Yet his grace need no longer fear regency. The realm has its king, Joffrey of Baratheon blood, of Lannister courage." She laid a hand upon her son's narrow shoulder. "Behold." Joffrey lifted his chin, a perfumed sneer. "Kneel," he commanded, voice shrill with youth. The hall flinched. Ned did not bend. Instead, he unrolled the parchment and read aloud the brief lines of Robert's script, every word echoing against the rafters like the measured toll of an anvil. When he finished, he looked up and the room seemed to shrink until only he and the queen existed. Cersei's smile withered, yet she gestured lightly. "Your lordship's reading is clear. Yet our late king, may the seven keep him, wrote in haste, wounded under the haze of milk of the poppy. And he was misled, she breathed, soft but searing, by those who wished to thwart the natural succession. Ned's fingers tightened around the parchment. The stag wax cracked audibly. There is no natural succession to be thwarted when the prince lacks the blood of the king. A gasp rolled across the hall like ripples of hail upon glass. Littlefinger's eyebrow arched, a falcon's wing preparing to strike. Pycelle emitted a wheeze. Even Varys' lashes trembled. Cersei laughed. Low, musical, the sound of water sliding over knives. Lord Stark, the boy's blood is of my womb and Robert's seed. Name me one man here who doubts it. Ned turned, sweeping the assembly with frost eyes. Then let the men who stand as Robert's brothers speak. Where is Lord Stannis? He paused. Where is Lord Renly? Silence answered.
Ned nodded.
They have flown because they know the truth, and the truth is here. He drew a second parchment, Stannis' letter. He read the litany of golden curls, of incest threads woven in 5 lines. He spoke the names of 3 dead children born to Robert who all shared dark hair, in contrast to the 3 born to the queen who bore the lion's mane. He cited the lineages of Baratheon and Lannister, black of hair versus gold, further back than Aegon's conquest. He spoke of bastards in the city, Gendry at Tobo Mott's forge, Bara in the street of silk, each bearing the king's features plain as sunrise. Every sentence seemed to layer iron upon iron. The air thickened, shimmering like heat though the hall lay cold. When he finished, Ned's voice dropped to an intimate hush that carried nevertheless to every ear. Prince Joffrey of houses Lannister and Lannister, by the law of gods and men, you sit a throne that is not yours. Cersei's hand fell from her son's shoulder as though he had burned her. Joffrey's mouth worked, but no sound emerged. Behind them, a golden shadow detached from the pillars. Ser Jaime Lannister, white cloak swirling. He rested his hand upon the pommel of his sword. Barristan mirrored the motion, gloved fingers brushing the silver lion head hilt of his own. Other Kingsguard shifted. Meryn Trant's visor caught Ned's reflection, a smear of gray steel. Boros Blunt's gauntlet clenched. Preston Greenfield swallowed hard. Littlefinger spoke at last, voice light. A grave accusation, my lord. Incest, bastardy, treason. Harsh words for a mother to hear. Ned did not look away from the queen. I name no treason greater than raising a false king. Cersei's cheeks bloomed scarlet. Treason. She breathed the word like venom. A wolf calls treason in the house of the lion? These swords about you, this throne beneath my boy, are forged by conquest, my lord, not by parchment. Robert was a warrior. He would have admired boldness. Varys stepped forward, palms spread as if to calm warring ravens. Perhaps, he cooed, it would soothe tempers to allow the hand to present his proofs in a smaller council before swords are drawn. Swords are drawn, Jaime said, unsheathing a handspan of Valyrian steel. Light convulsed along the red-black ripples. They simply remain in their scabbards. For now, gold cloaks shifted rivets. Steel hissed faintly. Ned heard the susurrus of fear again, his own heartbeat thunderous. He felt strangely calm, as if Winterfell's gods would groaned beside him. He raised Robert's will. By royal decree, I command the city watch to secure the royal children and escort them to chambers until the matter is settled. Janos Slynt's eyes darted toward Cersei, then to Littlefinger, then back to Ned. Coin campaigned behind those eyes, clinking louder than honor. His lips parted, but before he spoke, a scream pierced the hush. The great bronze doors flew open, crashing against stone. A figure staggered in, cloak torn, blood splattering the marble. Lord Vayen Poole, Ned's steward. His eyes were wild. My lord, your guards, he coughed crimson. Gold cloaks turned outside. He fell, staining the lilies of the floor. Chaos tore the silence. Gold cloaks wheeled, half drawing blades, half hesitating. Barristan barked an order, shield raised. Jaime's sword rang fully free, echoing like ice breaking. Ned moved to Poole, cradling the man's head, feeling the blood hot as summer suns. "Steel yourself," he whispered, but the steward's gaze was already glass. Cersei's voice cracked like a whip. "Seize Lord Stark. Protect my son." Half the gold cloaks lunged. The other half froze, uncertain. Slint's shout rose above them. "Obey the queen!" Barristan planted himself between Ned and the oncoming tide, sword flourishing in an arc of silver frost. The Kingsguard split, Meryn Trant sprinting for the dais to shield Joffrey, Preston hesitating, Blunt lumbering uncertain. Jaime advanced downward, eyes locked on Ned. Ned drew ice. The great sword's weight melted into his grip, a cold promise. He felt the ancient Valyrian runes hum under his palm. Around him, the hall bled into a blur of gold and red and steel. Only Jaime remained clear, predator bright. Word count continues. Ice cut the air with a whisper as Ned Stark raised the greatsword into guard, the black ripples in the Valyrian steel flickering like storm clouds trapped beneath glass. Jaime Lannister paced 3 measured steps down the dais stairs, lazy as a lion deciding whether to pounce, golden hair bright against the dusk-gray windows. The clangor of drawn steel rattled along the towering pillars. Candle lamps shivered, throwing frantic shadows across the cobbled blades that formed the Iron Throne. Somewhere beyond the rows of watching courtiers, a maiden began to sob softly, though whether from terror or awe Ned could not say. Time thinned to a single bright thread. Ned sensed Barristan Selmy on his flank, cool, immovable, the old knights breathing deep and slow. He heard the iron song of gold cloaks hemming them both in, the scuffle of boots on marble, the sharp stink of oiled mail suddenly sweating fear. Ser Boros Blunt advanced with mace raised high, face blotched crimson. Ser Meryn Trant herded Joffrey up 2 iron steps, shielding the Boy King behind a wall of white cloak and bright peppered steel. On the dais edge Cersei hovered, green eyes hard, lips curled. A queen whose every dream now balanced on the edge of a dozen naked blades. Jaime flicked his sword tip in an almost playful circle, testing the air. "Winter's bite against the Kingslayer," he drawled. "But I wonder, Lord Stark, can honor parry quicker than grace?" Ned's voice emerged calm, each word sheathed in ice. "We stand in Robert's Hall, beneath the 7-pointed star. My honor is sworn to his realm. Draw first blood, Ser Jaime, and you damn your sister's son before half the court." The Kingslayer smiled thinly. "Half the court will be thankful to see the matter ended cleanly. The other half is clever enough to keep quiet." He feinted left, then spun, blade flashing for Ned's shoulder. Ice Rose parried. Sparks sprayed like fireflies. The clash echoed off vaulted stone. Around them, a dozen separate duels threatened to blossom. Gold cloaks not loyal to Slint began edging toward the main doors, uncertain which side would write tomorrow's songs. Littlefinger drifted behind a pillar, eyes bright as wet emeralds watching coin tosses. Varys slithered further back, palms pressed together as though in prayer, his lavender sleeves twitching. Grand Maester Pycelle clung to a nearby banister, chain links of office rattling like memory of long-dropped shackles. Barristan blocked a spear thrust from a watch sergeant, riposted, disarmed him with 2 strokes so fluid they seemed made of moonlight. "Stand down," Selmy thundered, voice impossibly huge for an old man, booming through the rafters. "By oath and shield, I command, stand down." And for a heartbeat, several men faltered, until Janos Slint barked, "Obey the queen!" He plunged a dagger into the back of one wavering guardsman himself, crimson spraying across his breastplate. The spell of hesitation shattered. Steel rang out anew. Ned slid aside another Kingslayer thrust, ankle bones vibrating from the impact that carried through Ice's heavy spine. Jaime danced in, out, grin fixed, eyes bright with the thrill of a duel he had so rarely been granted. He was fast, lightning wrapped in gold, but Ned matched him with the deliberate strength of winter stone, each blow a toll of the North's deep heart. "Your son looks afraid," Ned said, voice scarcely above the ring of iron. Jaime's grin flickered. "My nephew, you mean? Call him what you will." I name him Counterfeit, and counterfeits melt in honest flame. Jaime lunged, but as Ned parried, he let his point drop suddenly. Changed angle, and Ice's great momentum left Ned too wide. Jaime's pommel smacked Ned's cheek. Ned felt skin split, tasted copper. The Kingslayer's follow-on thrust aimed for Ned's ribs, deflected by Barristan's shield as Selmy interposed, twin to a white tower sprouting from the marble. "Your Grace," Barristan shouted toward Cersei. "Call off this madness." Cersei's reply was a hiss. "Kill the wolf." At that order, half a dozen gold cloaks surged. Ned and Barristan came back-to-back in instinctive formation, Ice sweeping a low felling arc that ripped through one man's thigh and hammered another's shield aside with bone-breaking force. Barristan's blade flickered, silver and sure, marking shallow cuts that nonetheless crippled wrists and removed spears from desperate fingers. The courtiers erupted, a living tide scattering up aisles, shrieking, pressing against walls, choking doorways in finery and panic. One armored squire fell, trampled by a fat lord's knee-length velvet, the crunch of ribs audible. Above, ravens roosting in the beams burst into black confusion, beating wings, their croaks swallowed by clamor. Yet in the eye of that storm, Ned perceived something stranger. A hush at the dais. Joffrey's small voice, shrill and cracking, cried, "Mother, do something." But Cersei seemed frozen, eyes fixed not on battle but on something else beyond the iron balustrades. An echo of Stannis and Renly neither present to claim the throne. Behind her fear he could see calculations churn, high as the Red Keep's spired towers. Jaime sidestepped Barristan, used the chaos to angle once more for Ned. Barristan turned to chase him but was waylaid by two cloaks. Jaime flashed for Ned's unguarded flank. The Kingslayer's sword hissed, halted an inch short of meat when a shaft of ashwood sprouted from Jaime's upper forearm. The arrow's fletching fluttered crimson as Lannister silk. Jaime roared, reflex, evilly dropping his sword, blood wetting gold plate. All heads whipped to the throne room's far balcony. There, between two stained-glass windows, stood Arya Stark. Her hair tangled, cheeks striped with soot. She knocked a second arrow to a Dornish shortbow stolen from the armory. "Don't you touch my father," she whispered, though the whisper carried, clear as winter dawn. Ned's heart stuttered. "Arya!" From another balcony opposite, more figures appeared. Gray-cloaked men bearing direwolf badges hastily pinned. Desmond, Jory's cousin. Hallis Malin, visor up. Cain the Scarred. They had fought their way from the stables after Poole's murder, bloodied but breathing. They raised spears and bows. The sight emboldened the waverers among the watch. A group of 6 gold cloaks lowered weapons, backing away from the fray towards Ned, shouting for the protector, for the king's will. Others turned to cut them down, and battle splintered into shards. Janos Slynt, seeing his line bend, shoved through toward the dais. He climbed 2 steps and seized Joffrey's arm. "We retreat to Maegor's Holdfast, your grace." He glared at Cersei. "We can hold out there till Ian arrives with the remaining watch." Cersei flinched from the spray of blood across her skirts, but recovered. "Go, Janos, but bring the girl," she said, gesturing furiously at Arya on the balcony. "She is the wolf's heart. A hostage of the north will break the father." Slynt thrust Joffrey toward Trant and charged for a side stair, 3 men behind. But the nearer of Ned's own guards, Desmond and Cain, leapt the railings, intercepting halfway. Spear met shield with a flat crack. Slynt's dagger pinned Desmond's shoulder, but Cain's hatchet bit deep into a gold cloak's helm. The fight spilled down the steps. Amid the chaos, Varys appeared at Ned's elbow, breathless yet immaculate. "My lord," he whispered, voice silken as always. "If we remain, we all die. There is a secret stair behind the rookery that opens onto the eastern barbican. A small party might withdraw unseen while confusion reigns." Ned considered. Honor screamed to end it here, to press his steel until truth alone remained. But Arya's bowstring hummed behind him. A child 10 and one shoulder's an impossible weight. Sansa could be anywhere within the Red Keep, alone with Lannister guards. and the bastard born of Robert's blood, Gendry, still hammered in the city unaware of the storm overhead. He sheathed ice in a single decisive thrust. "Barristan," he called. The old knight disengaged from a reeling cloak, shield buckling but unbowed. "We retreat. Regroup." Jaime, clutching the arrow that pinned forearm plates together, barked a laugh that devolved into a cough. "Run, wolf. I will hunt you later." Barristan's eyes flashed. "I do not run from traitors. You run from fools," Ned corrected. "Barristan with me." They backed toward the side passage Varys indicated, Ice and Barristan's longsword crossing in wary circles to discourage pursuers. A path opened where undecided cloaks feared two legends back to back. Varys glided ahead like a ghost. From above, Arya's third arrow hissed, splitting a gold cloak's cheek and embedding in pillarstone. Another hiss, and Hallis Malin signaled with the staghorn whistle he'd carried since Moat Cailin. "Withdraw." Cersei screamed, "Stop them! 10,000 dragons for Lord Stark's head." Littlefinger watched them pass, mouth curling ever so faintly. He dipped his chin, a mocking bow, and turned away, already weaving new webs. At a side archway, Varys pressed a carved lion's maw. The stone grated, revealing a narrow spiral stair smelling of dust and bat droppings. Ned ushered Arya through a servant's door at the level above, seized Hallis, Desmond, two others. Barristan covered the rear until the final heartbeat, then slipped through. The portal ground shut behind, drowning shouts in sudden tomb-still gloom. They climbed downward by thin torchlight. Ned's cheek throbbed, blood tickling his jaw. Beside him, Barristan bled from a slice across the temple. Behind, Arya trembled only after she knew no one could see.
"Ned squeezed her shoulder."
"You were brave," he breathed. "I was afraid," she answered. But Bran said fear cuts deeper than swords. The stair ended at a slender corridor worming east beneath the keep's belly. From cracks overhead sifted dust of ages. They passed rust-gnawed portcullises, rat-gnawed bones, a forgotten skull too small for a man. Finally, they emerged into a torchlit guardroom where a single porter sat open-mouthed at their appearance. Varys hushed him with a pinch of coin. Beyond an iron door, humid dawn air rushed in, scent of brine and tar. They stood on an unused barbican landing, half crumbled, overlooking the cliff road to the sea gate. Far below, Blackwater rippled green-silver. Gull cries knifed the sky. Ned turned to Varys. "Why help me?" The eunuch's smile held sorrow. "I serve the realm. Today the realm's hope fled those doors with you, Lord Stark. Cersei will call you traitor, but a traitor who breathes may fight another day." He stepped back into shadow. Swiftly now, the gold cloaks will bar every gate within the hour. Hallis had procured 3 horses from a neglected tether. Ned boosted Arya onto the smallest, swung onto a dapple gray. Barristan mounted the third, though pain made him wince. Desmond and Cain sprinted ahead afoot, scouting. They clattered down the winding sea road. Bells tolled alarm at the Great September. Horns brayed on the walls. High above, ravens fled the rookery in tattered clouds. Ned glanced back once. Sunlight breached the horizon, striking the Iron Throne's windows so that the red keep blazed like a citadel afire. A grim omen or a dragon's birth, he knew not which. Below, the mud gate yawed half open as fisherfolk carted dawn catch inland. The port guards gaped when a lord of Winterfell, a lord commander of the Kingsguard, and a feral Stark girl emerged from the sea mist like wraiths. One grasped his spear, thought better, let them through. They vanished into the labyrinth of dockside warehouses, sea reek coating their lungs. Hallis led them to a net-slinging loft above the saltworks. There they paused, pulses hammering, to bind wounds and listen. Shouts already spread along the streets. Traitor hand, king attacked, wolf's rebellion. Ned stripped his bloodied cloak, replaced it with a tar-stained fisher's mantle. Arya hacked her hair shorter with a rusty knife until she might pass for a deckhand's urchin. Barristan gripped his sword pommel. "I am sworn to guard the king," he murmured. "Yet if the king is false..." Ned met his eyes. "Then guard the realm." "We need allies," Hallis said. "How many swords can we count?" "At Storm's End," Ned answered. "Stannis waits. If we reach him with proof, the realm may choose duty over deceit." "Dragonstone," Barristan corrected. "Lord Stannis sailed south 2 moons past. Then Dragonstone." Ned breathed deep. "We take ship tonight." Desmond returned, breath ragged. Gold cloaks flood the docks. Any man northbound questioned. But smugglers still ply the Blackwater mouth. "We might find a Drummond under false flag." Ned turned to Barristan. "Will you come?" The old knight lifted chin, resolve hard as dawn steel. "A Kingsguard belongs to no house, yet my oath was to Robert, not Cersei's cub. I will see the realm set right." "Then you are welcome, sir." Ned clasped the older man's forearm. Outside, the morning sun finished climbing, gilding sails and water with cruel beauty. The city throbbed, gossip metastasizing, banners whipping, bells clamoring like iron tongues of doom. Above it all, Ned smelled winter on the breeze, a chill coming even to these southern shores. A kingdom poised between truth and oblivion. He hefted ice once more, felt its ancient song vibrate in marrow. The story of this sword was the story of the North. Cold, relentless, too heavy for lies. He swore then, not only for Robert or for Jon Arryn's lingering question, or even for the sake of his own children, but for every soul crushed by the weight of a throne forged in conquest and sustained by deceit. "We go," he said, quietly, swiftly, by shadow and tide. "And when next we stand beneath open sky, the realm will know which blood runs true." He guided Arya out into the drifting sea fog. Barristan followed, white cloak torn and stained, yet still pure as hoarfrost. Behind, the first trumpets of pursuit wailed like dire wolves bereft, high, mournful, promising ruin. But the wolf had slipped the lion's snare, and winter at last was on the move. Fog rolled in thick from the mouth of the Blackwater, swallowing the wharves in ghost-pale sheets that smelled of brine and rotting hemp. Ned Stark waited in a shadowed alcove beneath a collapsing quay crane, listening to the harbor's heartbeat, the groan of rigging, the clack of yardarms, the muted curses of stevedores unseen. Every few breaths, torchlight flared somewhere distant, gilding the mist before snuffing out, as though the city itself were blinking away a nightmare it could not yet name. Hallis Mullen crouched 2 paces ahead, peering through a split in the planking. "For patrols," he murmured, voice low as tide across gravel. 2 from the watch, 2 sworn to Lannister colors, checking passes, shaking down fisher skiffs. They've strung chains across the main channel. Ned kept his cloak drawn tight, hood shadowing the fresh bruise on his cheek. Then we find a smaller channel, or a ship whose captain knows the dark water beneath the chains. He looked to Barristan Selmy, who knelt against a bollard binding his wounded temple with a strip torn from his once white cloak. "Sir, have you sailed these docks before?" "Only as Robert's escort," Barristan answered, cinching the knot. "But I know the men who make their coin on silence. 1 or 2 may owe me favors, though favors die quick when gold flows thicker than oaths." Ned glanced at Arya, curled on a coiled hawser nearby. She hugged her knees, bow across her lap, eyes smudged but bright. Even exhausted, she watched every shadow for danger. A she-wolf pup whose den had burned. He crouched beside her. "You've done enough for tonight. At first light, I'll see you safe. I'm coming to Dragonstone." Her voice wavered but did not break. "I'm not leaving you again." He brushed stray hair from her brow. "You'll come, but we must pass unseen, and that means trusting men who live on knives and half-truths. Stay close to Hallis. Do as he says." She nodded once, jaw set in quiet fury at everything fate had stolen. Desmond returned from the warehouse lane, panting. "Found a man may sail, Cormorant's daughter, a cutter out of Sisterton. Captain's name is Cober Pike. Smuggler. Says he'll run any blockade for 20 dragons and a pardon for past crimes." Barristan arched a brow. 20? For a cutter? He thinks us desperate. We are. Ned pushed to his feet. If he can raise sail before the harbor's sealed, 20 is a pittance. He turned to Desmond. Did he ask whom he carries? Said he don't give a crust about names so long as gold's true. Desmond half smiled. But he recognized Ser Barristan. Call him an old hero he did, then doubled the price. Barristan snorted softly. Honor can be costly. Better costly than dead in the Red Keep, Ned said. Lead us. They moved through the fog in staggered pairs. Hallis guiding Arya, Desmond beside Barristan, Ned trailing to watch their backs. The dockway twisted between hulks not yet loaded, warehouses yawning open, piles of cod barrels stacked like ramparts. In one shadowed alley, a corpse lay face down, throat purple from strangling, bare feet robbed. Another turning revealed 2 watch sergeants arguing with a Lysine galley master. Coins flashed, blades glinted under cloaks, but the fugitives slipped past unseen. At the western scupper, where the quays narrowed to rotting planks, Desmond signaled halt. A lantern bobbed ahead, approaching through the vapor. A squat, big-fisted sailor in salt-stiff leathers, gray hair braided down his back. He carried a stub-nosed casting crossbow openly. You the wolves looking for wings? He rasped. Desmond inclined his head. Cober Pike. Aye, and you're late. Tide's turning. Cober's eyes flicked over the group. He lingered on Barristan's dented white cloak, on Arya's bow, on Ice's half-hidden hilt at Ned's back. Something like respect touched his weather-beaten face. Didn't know I was ferrying half the songs of the realm. Price is 30 dragons now. 20 and the pardon, Ned replied evenly. Or we find another boat. Cober spat into the water. Find one that can slip beneath chains at ebb tide? Find one with false pennants of House Celtigar? 30. Ned drew a small pouch and tossed it. Gold clacked in Cober's palm. 20 for Dragonstone. 10 more if we see her cliffs by sunrise tomorrow. The smuggler's mouth twitched. Fair. He pocketed the purse. Veer not from my heels. Cloaks'll nose around if they smell hesitation. He led them along a narrow service jetty that branched from the main pier, its timbers creaking above black water. The Cormorant's daughter waited at the end, sleek, single-masted cutter with patched cream sails furled. 2 deckhands readied crates over the side, whispering in Sisterman cant. A carved cormorant figurehead, wings spread, stared past them all toward the ink-dark bay. As they boarded, Arya brushed fingertips along the rail's salt crust. She's fast, she said softly. Aye, girl, Cober answered, surprisingly gentle. Fast enough to outrun truth and lies both, God's willing. He guided her toward the stern cabin. Below with you. Storm be calm tonight, but eyes sharper than weather. Ned paused at the gangplanks midway and looked shoreward once more. Lamps flickered across the docks now. Dozens, lines of torches marking patrols sweeping closer. Bells rang on distant towers. A different peal than before, harsher, urgent, the city rousing to hunt. Somewhere a horn answered from the mud gate wall. He felt the draw of duty tug at his spine. He had left Sansa behind, left the bones of loyal men, left the realm's seat of power. Was retreat cowardice or strategy? Barristan laid a mailed hand on his shoulder. You cannot wield the realm if you are dead, Lord Stark. Ned exhaled, stepped aboard. The deck dipped, rose, accepted his weight. Cober's crew cast off lines, muffling clanks with greased cloth. Sails unfurled like pale ghosts. A breeze kissed them from seaward, cold as melted moonlight. The cutter slid through water with barely a suck of wake, heading for the mouth where stone breakwaters grasped like claws. Below, the hold was cramped but clean, stacked with smuggling barrels of spice and Myrish lace sealed under tarps. Ned ducked beneath a beam and found Arya perched on a cask, knees hugged. Hallis and Desmond sorted equipment, lengths of rope, a small chest of coins, a sealed skin of Maester's ink, for letters to be written in safety. Barristan stood with arms folded, head bowed as if in silent prayer. Ned knelt by Arya. I left Sansa, she whispered. She is with the Queen, Ned answered, though the words tasted like betrayal. Cersei will keep her as shield, not blade. Sansa's safety may buy us time. Arya's eyes glittered. We should take her back. Ride in with wolves and we will, Ned promised, though he felt each syllable weigh more than iron. But not tonight. We must bring truth to Lord Stannis first. With a king behind us, we can bargain for your sister. Without one, we are wolves in a lion's den again. Arya pressed lips thin, nodded. Deck planking above thudded, footsteps moving quick. Ned climbed above decks to find Cober at the tiller. Beyond him, the dark loom of the breakwaters neared. Between the stone arms the river narrowed, and above the channel thick chains shimmered where torchlight from guardships caught metal links. Cober pointed. First chains slack, tides high. We glide under. He glanced at Ned. Pray your gods. Ned did not pray. Prayers felt hollow tonight, but he laid a hand on Ice's pommel, as though the old steel carried the gods in its grain. The cormorant's bow angled down channel. Masts lowered by clever pulley rig so yardarms near scraped deck. The first chain hove overhead. Men clustered midships, craning necks. Ned saw barnacles weed, droplets falling like cold rain. The links passed a yard above the highest spar, close enough that a man might brush them with a spear point. None spoke, only water lapped, and somewhere gulls screeched as if cheering or condemning. They cleared. Crew exhaled. Cober steered starboard toward a hidden estuary branching behind a low sandspit. Rumor said fresh contraband often slipped there, but a lantern flared on the nearest guardship, and a trumpet blast split the night. Silhouettes of bowmen sprang to bulwarks. A voice boomed, "Heave to, by order of King Joffrey." Cober's eyes flashed. "Hold course. If we slow, they grapple." He punched the tiller. Canvas bellied as the stiffening breeze caught full. The cutter leapt like a startled fish. Arrows hissed. One clattered off the mast. Another punched into deck near Ned's boot. A third whistled past Cober's shoulder, thunked into the stern rail. Crew scrambled, one raising a buckler wall of curved boards, another handing crossbow to Barristan. The old knight planted boot on a coil and loosed into darkness. Somewhere a man cried out. Barristan loaded again, movements sure though blood seeped from his head wrap. The guardship veered, attempting to match speed, but her hull was fat, or rose slow to gain headway. Yet ahead, the second chain shone in torch glare, drawn taut just above wave line, supported by anchored barges. Beyond that barrier, open sea beckoned. Ned joined Cober at the tiller. "Can we dive under?" Cober's laugh sounded cracked as driftwood. "If we were a skiff, we're kipper's width too tall." He flicked glance at chain towers. "Unless we shave the mast." Ned followed his gaze. The mainmast's top third towered a pace above chain height. "Cut it," Ned said. Cober whistled shrill. Two sailors produced axes, shinnied aloft like monkeys. Ropes whipped as axes bit wood. Ned braced at tiller beside Cober, guiding inches left, inches right, riding a cross-current. Arrows rained. One grazed his cloak, tore cloth. He tasted salt, fear, exhilaration. A mighty crack. The mast's upper spar toppled, sails flapping like wounded birds. It splashed aft, dragging lines. Sailors hacked them free. Wind roared across the sudden stump, but the cutter still flew. The second chain loomed a man's height above prow. Crew ducked.
Ned ducked.
Cober crouched while holding tiller by fingertips. The chain scraped the severed mast top, screaming metal on wood, then slid past overhead with a slap that sparked. The cormorant's daughter burst into open sea as though sloughing a snake's skin, spray exploding off her prow. Behind, horns clamored. Lanterns swarmed like angry fireflies. But river currents slowed pursuit, and Cober trimmed sail to catch south wind curling round Storm's End. The sound of arrows ceased. Only the hiss of wake remained. They kept east of Blackwater Bay's midline, hugging shadow of the cliffs. Moonstone Hall's watchfires vanished behind curvature. Ned allowed himself a breath. Dragonstone's basalt spires were 200 furlongs away, far yet measurable. He descended to hold, where Hallis pressed salve to Barristan's wound. The old knight sat rigid, enduring pain sans expression.
Ned spoke softly.
We owe you tonight. Barristan met his gaze. I keep my oaths, even those broken by my own brothers. His shoulders slumped momentarily, as if the weight of white cloaks seen lying in blood still pressed him. I fear what I saw in that hall, Lord Stark. Jaime has no leash, and Cersei's leash is gold and green flame. If the realm does not see truth soon, war will come swifter than ravens. Ned thought of Mance Rayder's words to Benjen years ago. When the fires of kings clash, the cold creeps south unseen. He closed his eyes, picturing snows past the wall, the others unknown to southern lords, the children of his hearth still in peril. We bring truth, and we pray steel enough hearts to heed it. Above decks, Arya pressed ear to the deck's underside, listening to the rush of water. Sounds like wolves running, she murmured when Ned sat beside her. The sea has its own pack, he said, smiling faintly. And tonight we run with it. He looked at the stars, patchy through cloud yet guiding. Tell me, little one, can you read those? He pointed at a cluster near the sword of the morning. Arya followed his finger. That's the she-wolf, then added quickly. Septons call it the maiden's tears, but old Nan told better. Old Nan often does. He ruffled her shortened hair. Those stars will keep us north of the worst reefs. Remember them. I will. She chewed lip. Father, will Bran be safe? And Robb? Her voice flicked between child and soldier. Robb has men and the north. Bran has Maester Luwin and Hodder and the Wallwalkers. The north endures. He hoped belief would make it so. Let those thoughts be your blanket tonight. She nodded, but sleep did not quickly claim her. Dawn's gray light seeped across the horizon as Dragonstone emerged. Black crags rising from the narrow sea like a dragon's back, citadel spires sharp as broken teeth. Wind howled through volcanic arches, carrying sulfur tang. Cobra eased sheets. The cutter angled toward a hidden cove south of Driftmark where smugglers often passed salted herring. Mist clung to basalt slopes, hiding the ancient fortress until its gargoyles loomed sudden, wings spread in stone. Sentries on a cliff bastion hailed them. Cobra hoisted a cracked pennant, red crab of the sistermen, then added a black flag bearing 3 silver trout. False banners both, but watchers accepted. War had not reached these waters yet. No one expected the hand of the king to arrive in a humble cutter. They anchored in knee-deep surf, boots splashing ash sand. Hallis and Desmond scouted ahead to a goat track switchbacking cliffs. Ned, Arya, Barristan followed. Cobra remained aboard, promising to wait 2 days for payments balance, and a favor of his own choosing, vague as sea myth. Climbing, Ned felt the island tremble, an illusion born of exhausted legs and the volcano's quiet hum. Hot vents exhaled warmth amid chill morning, sulphurous wisps threading heather. Gulls circled overhead, their cries harsh in the barren stillness. At ridge top, a watchtower gate a fused black stone barred path. Guards in the fiery heart sigil of Stannis Baratheon aimed crossbows. Their sergeant, a square-jawed man with one ear, eyed the newcomers. Barristan stepped forward. Tell Lord Stannis that Ser Barristan Selmy and Lord Eddard Stark come bearing Robert's word. The sergeant's eyes widened, but discipline held. Wait, he said and vanished inside. A quarter hour passed, long enough for sweat to chill beneath cloaks. Arya traced finger over a carved dragon talon on the gate. Ned whispered for patience. Then hoofbeats. A small column emerged, led by a lean, sardonic knight in black and red surcoat. Ser Davos Seaworth, once smuggler, now Stannis's most trusted man, if rumors spoke true. Davos dismounted, dipped head to Ned, deeper to Barristan.
Ser Barristan, Lord Stark.
His lordship bids you enter. He has awaited tidings. Davos's gaze shifted to Arya, softening. You've traveled far, little wolf. Arya squared shoulders. I shot Jaime Lannister. Davos grinned despite grim circumstance. Then you are welcome indeed. They passed through halls carved from ancient ashglass. Walls glimmered as though candle flames swam beneath obsidian skin. Dragon statues lined corridors, eyes of garnet glowing with caught lamplight. Ned remembered stories of Aegon's first stronghold, stone shaped by dragonfire. Yet seeing it chilled him. It felt like walking inside a beast's petrified ribcage. They came to the chamber of the painted table. Oak carved into Westeros map, scale accurate down to unlabeled streams, edges flecked now with wax and cinder. Lord Stannis stood at its far end, face leaner and sterner than Ned recalled from Robert's court. Brow etched, jaw clenched as if against perpetual taste of bitterness. He wore a plain surcoat of rough spun, the crowned stag and fiery heart embroidered small at breast. No crown sat on his head. He regarded them in silence. Behind him, Maester Cresson, frail, silver-haired, leaned on cane. Beside, the Red Priestess Melisandre watched with red eyes bright as coals. Ned stepped forward, sank to one knee, though pain flared in ribs. Lord Stannis, by Roberts will I name you King of the Seven Kingdoms, rightful son and heir. I bring proof. He offered the parchment bearing Robert's hand and seal, and Stannis accepted without flourish. Barristan knelt too, white cloak sullied with dried blood. Your Grace, he said. Arya knelt, though grudgingly. Hallis and Desmond mimicked. The chamber's torches hissed. Stannis scanned the will, eyes flicking back to Ned. Where is my brother's bastard of Anvil, Eddard? You wrote of him. Still in King's Landing. We must send men quietly. Stannis nodded once. And the usurper boy sits the throne? With Lannister swords, Ned said. Half the city watch. Jaime commands the rest. Stannis's mouth tightened further, impressive feat. He passed the parchment to Cresson, who adjusted glasses, confirming script. Melisandre stepped nearer to inspect Ned. Her ruby pendant pulsed faintly. Shadow clings to him, she murmured. Stannis ignored her prophecy. Ser Barristan, he said. You defended my brother Robert's realm beyond all expectation. Will you serve me now? Barristan bowed head. My sword is yours, your grace. Stannis exhaled as though one burden eased. He turned to Ned. You have risked daughters and life for truth. I cannot repay that, but I can pledge fidelity. Rise, Lord Protector no more. Rise, hand of the king once again, to a king of lawful birth.
Ned stood.
Weight shifted on his shoulders. A different weight now, sharp yet honest. I accept. Melisandre's gaze flickered like flame in draught. The night is dark and full of terrors. Lord Stark, you chase one lion, but another beast prowls in cold north. Ned met her eyes, unblinking. I know the cold beast. I have smelled its breath on the wall. The south plays at thrones while true darkness gathers. Stannis's gaze sharpened. You spoke of that to Robert once, white horrors beyond the wall. We will speak again. A kingdom cannot fight wars on two fronts, yet truth must not be ignored. He tapped finger on the painted table, precisely on Storm's End. First, we rally banners Massey, Valerion, Celtigar. My fleet returns from Griffin's Roost within days. When sails line Blackwater Bay, the small folk will remember Robert's strength lives in his brother. Ned's mouth tightened, and the Lannisters will field their own host. Let them. Stannis's jaw flexed. Fire will melt gold. Cresson coughed gently. Your Grace, the realm bleeds. Perhaps letters before swords. Acknowledge Lord Renly. Seek his fealty. A united front could quell war before it blooms. Stannis's eyes hardened, but Ned interjected. Wise, your Grace. Renly has the Stormlands and Reach Lords sniffing roses. If he crowns himself, we face two wars. Stannis looked at Ned long, then nodded curtly. Very well. Draft letters, both of you. Yet I'll not beg a boy who chases tourneys while the realm cracks. He gestured toward a scribe's lectern. Ned moved with Cresson to compose messages. One to Renly offering amnesty and place on council. One to the lords of Riverlands and Vale, citing Robert's will and Joffrey's illegitimacy. Another to Robb in Winterfell, warning of Lannister treachery and beseeching caution. Words spilled tight and formal, sealed with Stannis' signet. Fiery heart crowned stag, wax red as blood. Night fell again before they finished. Messengers, seaworthy knights, swift gull-boats were assigned.
Melisandre lit à Tolbrassière, flamme d'Ancine Greenish.
She chanted in strange tongue while knights eyed her uneasily. After, Stannis escorted Ned to a small balcony overlooking Black Sea. Stars wheeled overhead, clear now of city smoke. Wind carried distant booming of surf against Dragonmont. "My brother loved you," Stannis said abruptly. "He loved few. Jon Arryn, perhaps me once. Why risk all for us?" Ned considered. Robert was the hammer that broke dragons. He believed winning throne enough, but steel that takes a true edge needs careful smithing after forging. I thought I could help him govern true. I failed. Now I try again for his children, the true ones, and for my own. Stannis's gaze remained on horizon, but something eased in the lines of his face. "Then let us forge anew." He extended hand. Ned clasped it. Two callous grips met, North and Storms united. War councils followed at dawn.
Velaryon envoys pledged Tieti Vagalis.
Celtigar promised gold and crab-armed levy. Massey's send word of 2,000 spears. Davos charted supply routes, suggestion to raid Lannisport if fleet held strength. Barristan drilled Dragonstone garrison, though wound reopened thrice. Arya practiced with castle stable boys, sparring wooden wasters until knuckles bled. Days marched. Ravens answered. Some houses bent knee, others hedged. From the reach, whispers said Renly crowned beneath high banners of sun and rose. From King's Landing, rumors, Sansa Stark forced to attend Queen daily. Joffrey ordering smiths to forge a giant crossbow he called Heart Eater. Lord Tywin massing host at Casterly Rock. Jaime's wound festered briefly, but he stalked ramparts with golden hair like conquering sun. Ned penned Sansa secret letters through Varys's whispered webs, words of courage, instructing silence, promising rescue. Whether they flew or fell, he could not know. One gray dawn, a raven arrived from Winterfell, Robb's own hand. Host marshalling, banners streaming south. Mormont Bear, Glover Red Hand, Umber Giant, Hornwood Moose. The North marched not merely to defend, but to call the Lannister debt due. Ned's heart bucked with pride, and fear of wolves far from home. Stannis listened, expression carved from the same basalt as his seat. Good. 2 fronts will stretch the lions thin. 2 fronts bleed twice, Davos cautioned. If Robb falls before we land, gold may march east unchecked. Robb will not fall, Ned said. He has the heart of the North behind him, and his mother's sharp mind. Stannis tapped table. Then we move sooner. Fleet sails with dawn tide. Lord Hand, ready your proofs. You'll stand beside me when we claim the Iron Throne. Ned touched the pouch containing Robert's will, Stannis's letters, Stannis's own claim. Fragile leaves of parchment around which armies now gathered like bees around honey, or wasps around blood. He realized war had already begun when Jaime drew first steel in the throne room. Every step since merely widened the wound. Yet within that gash, perhaps, lay a path to lance older threats. Winter's true darkness, the others glimpsed only in ghosts of tales. That night, eve of departure, Ned walked Dragonstone's walkways alone. Lava glass tiles reflected torches in reddish streaks. He paused at a parapet facing north, toward far invisible wall, and thought of Jon Snow at Castle Black, of Benjen vanished beyond, of ancient vows men still whispered. Snow would soon blanket the north. By the time this war ended, ice and shadow might cross the neck unchecked. He gripped ice's hilt. Father, he whispered to the wind and to the ancient gods of Winterfell's weirwood. Give me courage to end lies, that truth might arm us for the greater war. Below, waves smashed basalt, sending spray like icy spears that pattered his boots. Ned did not flinch. He felt the north in his bones, the stormlands in the roar, and the beat of dragons sleeping under stone. All of Westeros seemed to breathe through him, a ragged breath, painful yet alive. When dawn rimmed the sea crimson, Dragonstone harbor filled with sails, black stag banners snapping, fiery hearts blazing. Drums thundered in holds, beats echoing Ned's own heart. Arya clambered the flagship ramp, eyes alight. Barristan donned fresh white cloak over mail darkened by pitch. Davos shouted commands, the onion flag flying from masttop. Stannis stood at prow, jaw set to horizon, as though he could already see the Red Keep's ramparts burning gold. The fleet weighed anchor. Rowers' oars bit sea in unison. Wind filled canvas. The island receded like a memory of dragons. Ned watched surf break against hull, felt decks hum, heard gulls cry overhead. War awaited, but within that storm flickered a chance at justice. He pressed hand to parchment beneath jerkin, to remind himself truth yet lived, fragile but alive. And so the wolf sailed with the stag and the onion toward a lion's den.